Well, it seems like it's a nice day out. Let's go see if we can't dig a mower out. It's literally been winter the last like 3 days ago, so we better dig out a mower and see if we can't get it running. So we are headed to the Hill of Mowers. So I got one a few months back, and seems to be some kind of Bob Vila Craftsman mower, and we will see if we can't resurrect this sucker back to life. So this is the Hill of Mowers. Got a few engines laying around, but it's a little much and overwhelming for my wife, but it's a hobby that that I have acquired quite a few projects. So come join me on this one. Old Bob Vila. Maybe we can get this thing back up and running. Well, let's take this thing in the garage. Well, first I think we're going to check out and see if it needs a blade or a blade adapter first. I got this old broken cinder block that I use to hold the mower up while I'm working on it. So, let's pull that spark plug wire and make sure she doesn't have spark while we're monkeying with the blade. Well, the blade and the blade adapter look like they're intact. The blade needs to be sharpened, but we'll deal with that later. Let's see what's going on with this thing. Looks like the pull cord is frayed. That needs to get changed, so we'll change that out a little later. Cable is locked up. Drive cable and the engine brake. I think we need. Oh, there it goes. We'll see if we can't get that off and get some penetrant in there. Clips. Pull the cable off. And this side just pops out of the handle. Take it off. Get that off. And just snip the zip ties. I think we might have to lube up both of the cables before we finish the project. Try to get them working again. Stick them up right, and then we'll stick some rapid tap cutting fluid in there and see if we can't get them free up again. Tap Magic or Rapid Tap, either one. Tends to be a pretty good little penetrant to get the cables open back up. You get a little bit in there and it'll pretty much soak all its way down to the bottom. Especially, you push the cable back and forth. You can get some more on the cable. I can force right down the cable and it'll just weight its way in there. Every once in a while we get more drops on there. So that's pretty good for now. Let's see what it's got for gas in it. Oh, it's got one of these goofy fresh start caps. We might have to change that. That cap looks like it's broke altogether anyway. We'll change that to a regular cap. I'll have to run to the store and get one. Well, doesn't look like there's anything in there. Well, we'll pop the hose off a little later. See if we can't figure that out. Well, next let's see if there's any oil in it. Check the levels. See if it's got any oil in it. It's about right on the upper dot, so there's something in there. Yeah, it's full all the way. A little dark, not too bad. I think we're going to pop the air cleaner assembly and start pulling that carb off to see if how much nasty fuel's inside of it. We might as well get the recoil assembly off too, just because we're going to change that pull cord. So let's tear into it, start pulling this thing apart. Got the nap mat, keep the knees all nice. Got the old trusty Nikita, get it worked out. Ooh, look at that air filter. A little bit of mold growing in there. We'll have to change that out. Let's get some of these screws out. Pull cord off. Get through that cover. Got some helicopters from the maple tree. Fuel tank almost off. Let's get the rest of the air cleaner assembly off. It's a little dirty. Not too bad though. Close. We can clamp it off. I take these 5/16 bolts and I just cut all the threads off and kind of smooth out the tip, and we throw that in the fuel line. If there's any gas in there, it kind of stops it up. So pull that all the way off, shove that in the end of the hose, and that stops everything from happening. Then we can drain the rest of that fuel out whenever we want. There's going to be something in there. Not much, but something. So let's get that gas tank off. It's a little dirty. We will get the rest of the recoil assembly off. It should be some 3/8. dipstick tube, another bolt there, 5/16. Take that off. I kind of work the dipstick tube out of the way, and I just twist it around. Shove it back in the hole so we don't get a bunch of goop in the engine oil. Pull that apart. And that's pretty slow, so we'll lube that up a little later when we change the pull cord on it. Bunch of junk in there. Look at all that junk. Okay, let's see what that spark plug looks like. Right there. First fire, that looks like it's some kind of aftermarket plug. That's pretty rusty and hammered. It's got a bunch of carbon on it. We might just torch that to clean it up a little bit later. See if we can't get this thing running again. All right. Let's. Now that we're wide open, we can start pulling the carb off. I'm sure we're gonna have to clean that. I clean all the carbs I pull off the mowers, clean them up and get them running again. Couple more bolts there. There's just an O-ring at the base of the carb there that kind of holds it in place, and we just tip this card sideways to get off that linkage right there. I'll set that. Get into that here in a minute. Everything else looks okay. We're going to have to take this thing outside and blow all the junk out of it. Got a lot of garbage on it. Let me pause you and we'll tear into this carburetor a little bit. Well, let's get you set up. And we will tear into this carb a little bit. The old Briggs & Stratton. So, first thing we got the main jet on the bottom of the float pole. I'll have to pop that off. And typically that's the main problem in all these Briggs & Stratton carbs, is that main jet is typically plugged up. So if you shoot a flashlight down the side, you can kind of see, I don't know if you can see this, but looks like that main jet's open. I can see right through it. So let's pop this carb, the bowl off. It's dry. Looks pretty good. Looks actually pretty clean in there. The old trusty Leatherman. The float. Needle's metal, so you can't do anything with that. There's nothing. Float looks good. Look down the emulsion tube. Actually, the seat looks fairly decent too. The little rubber seat in there looks like it's in really good shape. So I think we're just going to squirt this out. Make sure carb cleaner goes through all the orifices, and we'll see if we can't run it once we get some fuel in there. That little teeny jet there we'll have to clean out. But let's shoot some carb cleaner. Let me get some gloves on real quick. Alright. Let's get a tip cleaner on there, see if we can make sure that port's clean. It's probably going to be the teeny tiniest little rod on this tip cleaner. This is for welding torches, and it works really good for cleaning out jets on carburetors. See if I can get it in there. Yeah. That works all the way through. Let's squirt that a couple times. I'm going to take that outside and blast it off with some air. Give me a second. I just hose them off with brake clean or carb cleaner. I don't have an ultrasonic cleaner yet, so I just hose them down with carb cleaner, blow them out with air, make sure the tip cleaner gets through all the jets. I kind of keep my finger over the hole so that the seat gasket doesn't fly out. That looks pretty good. I blow all that stuff in the box because it'll just sit there and evaporate. It doesn't get junk all over the place. So let's take this back. All right. So everything looks pretty good. I might have to change this gasket, but I'm pretty sure I got a few of these laying around. We're just going to throw this on there and see if we can't get her fired off. Get a paper towel. Hey, how's it going?
Good, buddy. How are you?
Good.
You gonna put them on the porch or?
Yeah, right here's fine.
Right,
Thank you. A never-ending supply of Amazon parts. I bet I pay that guy's wages pretty good. Anyways, let's get all these little pieces cleaned up. Good enough to run. go back in the float, set it down on the carb, put the pin in there. Brigs are plastic, so they're kind of set. You can't really adjust them, but they're up kind of high. Let's get the float bowl back on. And the main jet, we're just going to squirt that out one more time. Just a little bit in there. I could see through it, so I'm sure it'll start. Get that started. Make sure everything's working. That looks good. Let's switch you over back to the mower. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to thread this spark plug back in and blow all this junk off the mower. There's a bunch of spider webs and nests of all kinds of stuff on there. So let's get these, let's get the intake hole plugged up with a little bit of paper towel. We don't blow a bunch of junk in there. Pack it in there pretty good. Okay, let's make sure the governor works. Yeah, that's all working. Looks like there's some goobers on the spring. Let's clean this spark plug up first. See if we can't get that restored. Got a little chainsaw project going on here, don't mind that. An old Steel 066. I love those old big old saws. Anyways, I just clean these up a little bit. I tend to just torch the carbon off of them. Let me see if I can't find my torch. So the trick is to burn all that carbon off the top. This works on these smaller plugs. the high-end plugs and the plugs that have resistors in them, it kind of burns them up. But it's just a lawnmower plug. If it doesn't work when I'm done, I just buy a new plug for it. But 9 out of 10 times, I get this plug brand new just by torching it a little bit. So the trick is, even heat over it. Try and get it cherry red for just about a minute or so. You'll start to see the black carbon burn off into a red form, and then it kind of turns gray, like a gray powder. And if you get it down in the insulator real good, it cleans up like it's brand new. So let's see, take a look. Looks pretty good. Well, we'll definitely have to let that cool down for a good 5-10 minutes. It's literally the temperature of the sun. But I will take this little needle and get down in that insulator and get all that carbon dust out of there. We'll lightly brush it and that thing will be brand new. Well, let's see what this gas tank has in it, why don't we? Put some of this junk away. So, it didn't look like there was anything in there, but sometimes there's always a little something in there. We'll take my little plug off, dump out anything if there is any. Doesn't look like there's anything in there. Why don't we just shoot some carb cleaner in there? Shake it around, get any junk out of there. And I'm going to take this outside and blow it out too, get all the junk out of it. That seems pretty good. Let's change that fuel line. So, we're going to get these clamps off. And we'll take that hose for a measurement, and we were going to change that to Tygon hose. So the good stuff is this polyurethane Tygon hose. So we're going to cut a chunk off of this, about the same length as that hose there, and it's going to get a brand new fuel line. So the Tygon hose holds up pretty good if you're not using ethanol gas. So we're gonna get some clamps that fit that. They're a little bit smaller than the normal quarter-inch hose clamps. They are a metric hose clamp fits them, and I just bought a whole bunch, but I think the size is 10 by 10, so 10 millimeter by 10. So those are the trick there for getting those on, is those smaller hose clamps.
Nice and warm too.
So we're going to get one slid up there a little bit. I'm going to feed that on there all the way. And they push on all right. Get that all the way down. Let's grab another one of those when we get that on the mower. I'll just slide that on there for now. And we're going to have to find a fuel cap. We might have to dig down the hill, see if we can't steal one off another mower. Alright, we're back at it. I dug up a gas cap out of another tank I had laying out in the parts pile. So we're going to get that on. Okay, this mower's been sitting outside for a while, so we're going to squirt a little bit of WD pretty much right where the cup would be, where the recoil spring is actually sitting. So we're going to get a little in there, let it soak, flip it upside down, and start slowly running it a little bit until it starts freeing up. Crunchy. Let it go all the way out. Back in a few times. Let's put a little more in there. Start to work a little better. All the way back in. I think that's as much string as it can take. Okay, I'd say that's working all right. Let's change the string on it. Let's wipe it down a little bit, get some of that WD off of it. Just the excess. All right, let's pull it out and clamp it. Get some of that. Get some of the string off of it. And pull that cord out. Just cut it off. I got a little measurement. I measured on 190cc Briggs. It should take 7 feet of pull cord. So we're going to try and put 7 feet on there. And then we also got to pull out the cord out of the handle too, so you just grab it with some needle nails, cut that end off. So you got the handle, recoil is held in place so it's not going anywhere. I'm going to get some fresh pull cord and we'll get it changed out. So I bought some Sten stuff. It seems to work really good. So we're going to pull that off. We're going to try and get about 7 feet of that. The trick is getting the ends burned up so they don't unravel. You get it hot and you lick your fingers and you just pull straight out. That tends to not make a bulb on the end of the coil. We'll heat it again. It's going to unravel a little bit, but once it starts melting together, it'll be pretty tight. That works. Now the trick is, sometimes you do an overhand knot, but what holds pretty good is it's this little figure 8 knot that I figured out. We're going to go in, around the bottom, around the shaft, and back up through. So that creates this little figure 8 knot. I don't know exactly what it's called, but it's awesome for holding these things. And you kind of cinch it right close to the end. You get it up there, you kind of walk it so you don't have a big tag line hanging off. Get it right to the end there, and then you can pull it, snug it up, and it's kind of like a little ball. It kind of folds over itself, and no matter how hard you pull on it, it won't be able to go through that line. So it's a really good knot for tying off on the handles. On some older recoil assemblies, a fat knot like that is not as good as just a regular overhand knot, but this one tends to hold up quite a bit better than all the rest that I've seen. So I do that. You don't even have to heat that. It just cinches down tighter and tighter with use. So we'll put that on the handle, pull real hard, and then pull out a good 7 feet. Do a quick measure on that for 7 feet, and then we'll cut the excess off, burn it, and shove it through that recoil assembly. Probably not. We're going to feed the cord right through the hole on the cover and into the recoil assembly. Pull out. We're going to make that same figure 8 knot. Down underneath, around, up through. Same thing. Roll it up tight. Have a little tag end sticking out and pull it tight. And pull that one a little bit. Push up hard on the bottom. And pull it all the way through. Stuff that little tag in there. And I'll release the vice grips. And it's going to come out just as far as the other one was. Just a little tag end hanging there. Clean the rest of that off. And that's going to work perfect because the rest of it hangs way up on the handle. So let's go over and get back to the mower. Okay, we have recoil assembly, gas tank with the lid. We got to grab that spark plug. Let's grab that spark plug. So it's nice and cool now. We're going to take the needle and just scrape along the insulator, get any carbon ash and stuff out of there from old burnt oil and unburnt fuel and stuff. You just get it in along the insulator, scrape around, get it scraped up real good. We're going to lightly brush it and then blow it out with air. And we should be good to go on this one. See that? Man, that thing is brand new. Okay, let's get that. Spark plug in. We're going to snug that down a little bit. Coil wire back on. We're going to get the recoil assembly back on, so we got to twist that dipstick out of the way. Let's get past some of these. Oh my goodness. Looks like the cover better down here. And bend that thing way out. So we have 2 regular ones in the front, 2 longer ones in the back. Little shoulder ones in the back. So, those are 3/8. Still got that on the key though. Kind of start by hand. We need the dipstick tube to be screwed back down, so we'll flip it over. Get it in its little groove, push it down in the hole. It's a little shouldered 5/16, I believe. And thread that. Okay, so gas tank on. There are 3 screws that are going to hold that on. They are smaller shouldered ones. And then there's a fuel tank with a spacer, like a shoulder bolt with a spacer underneath the tank on this bottom corner. So you shove the spacer in between the block and the tank and then push the shoulder bolt through. And that one, I believe, is back to 3/8 again. Okay, now the cover. Go through. And we gotta line up the hole. Alright, tomorrow we will finish off with washing it up and sharpening the blade, and we'll be done. Thanks for joining us. Okay, we are at it again. We're finally getting back to Bob Vila here. It's been, I don't know, a couple of months, and now it is mower season. It's good, we're well into spring a little ways, and gotta sell a mower. So Bob Vila just got an oil change. And here I'm going to show you how I sharpen blades. Blade is off. First thing I noticed is the blade is in the correct orientation where the cup is cupped downwards on this particular AYP, so American Yard products, I think. Anyways, first thing I noticed was the blade is dull on the side that it normally spins on, but somebody has sharpened the back side of the blade as well. I don't know if that serves a function. It looks like it's pretty sharp, but I don't think it actually mows anything that way. So we're just going to sharpen the correct side and get this thing on. Obviously it's got some pretty deep gouges as far as rock chips, but as long as we take off enough material along the edge here, we should be able to get it squared on the end, and it'll work pretty good. So I'll show you how we do that. Okay, here we go. So the key for me sharpening blades is, first of all, on this blade especially, you'll see a lot of surface rust. So the surface rust throws off your balancing weight from side to side depending on how much grass and surface rust and stuff there is on the blade. So that's the first step, is getting the surface rust off. Second step is that we try and sharpen the blade the same as the manufacturer at a 45. So you'll see me when I cut the blade, I'm going to keep the blade to me in a 45-degree angle, and the trick is to just dress the factory edge here, but really focus on these last 2 inches or so right here. So that 2 inches is going to be the most important. The other thing is that you have to do is to keep it square. So the real cutting action is to keep the end of the blade square to the cut and have a really sharp point on the end. Now you have to achieve that in order to get a good cut. But the other thing you have to worry about when you're sharpening blades too much is when you take down the end of the blade to get the square point on the end here, the more you take off this end of the blade, the less vacuum and lift you will have on the deck. So you want the blade as long as it can be within the deck to create the most vacuum. So you're going to watch me in high speed mode cleaning, sharpening, and making this blade square and balancing the blade on a little table balancer. We're going to change from a non-wire wheel to a regular grinding wheel. Close enough. The other thing you gotta watch out for is the blade adapter. There's a couple of tabs on there, little protrusions, little nubs coming off there. You gotta make sure they match up in the blade and that they're not broke off. If they're broke off, you could have a bad blade run. It could break prematurely on them. So gotta make sure your blade adapter is in good shape. Get those lined up on the notches and snug it down.